Welcome to 1945, and what will hopefully be the last year of the Third Reich. How's it going, folks? We are going to be playing as the Allies in this particular War in the West campaign. And we are starting, of course, on that Western Front as the Western Allies specifically, trying to reach Berlin before the Soviets do. I would love all advice, tactical suggestions down below. Please feel free to be an armchair general on this one because I need your help. Now, getting started, we are going to go ahead and keep our Air North Europe attacks on a medium basis here. I'm also going to make sure to actually target airfields. I'm going to actually push units back. I'm going to hit railways as well. With medium effectiveness, and I'm going to try to interdict enemy planes. But actually, I'm going to move interdiction to low focus and really get those strikes on the rail yard quite high. As for air support in the Mediterranean over there near our Italian front, I'm going to do, just again, let's do low air superiority or low ground support, low air superiority. Let's try to keep some folks alive. And again, I want to go for those railways, and I also want to go for the rail yards. In Italy, there are a tremendous amount of mountains, natural barriers and stuff, so I'm not even sure that's going to be quite that effective. So let's put interdiction up as well. Now, as for strategic air day, again, we want to hit those rail yards, especially since we are on the way to Berlin. I'm going to do the same with oil and fuel. And if anyone has any recommendations, make sure to let us know in the comments below. As for enemy vehicles, armaments, I'm really not going to worry about that too much. But again, we are going to hit railways, going to do some interdictions, and also the rail yards. Really just trying to shut down the enemy transports. Now, as for night attacks, let's continue to go for oil and fuel. But maybe at night we should have a little bit of a different focus, and actually hitting their aircraft while they're in the base might not be such a bad idea. So I'm actually going to put that focus on high. And again, we're going to go ahead, we're going to hit those airfields on high. And let's hope that everything works out. We're going to execute those air directives, guys. Wish us the best of luck. Of course, these are our first moves in the campaign, and I can only hope that they come out pretty well, because we've got a lot of Germans to face here. We're about to take a look at the front lines and see if we can't come up with some breakthroughs. For anybody that wants to take a look at the actual stats there, feel free. We are going to be taking a look at the casualties throughout the campaign. And if you'll notice here in Italy, also in Central Europe over here, it's actually snowing in the Alps. It's raining quite heavily in Italy. Actually, no, it's snowing in eastern Italy for the most part. So we have to keep that in mind, that the weather is not necessarily going to be in our favor. I just want to take a wider look at the front. If you look at all these different colors, they of course represent different army groups. The one right here is actually the Free French Army. So I'd love to get some really good attacks with them. But just look at our situation. Snowing everywhere. This would probably be a good opportunity for the Germans to maybe go for one last final mad dash. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab the 30th, 29th, and 2nd, U.S. Infantry and Armored Divisions, and I'm going to grab these guys over here, and we are going for a headlong attack into that German line. You can actually see the amount of air support that came from both sides just to get to that defense, but look at the casualties, guys. 1,295 enemies down, and on our side, about 1,183. I mean, that is a serious amount of combat. Comrade, calm down. That's my parrot, Comrade. She is losing her mind. And as you can see, we also had the fortified zones surrender. Not a huge victory there. I mean, those fortified zones are quite weak. It's mostly border guard units. Nonetheless, I'm pretty happy with that result. And of course, we want to try and consolidate these wins quickly. You know, every inch of ground is extremely important in a campaign like this. All right, I want to look for some more of those weakened areas. Again, over here at this 420, if we got over here, this would allow us to actually cross the river, which, as you can expect, is a very important position to be in. But what I was trying to do is get these forces to join up here. So we're going to do this. I'm going to send those infantry units in as well. And again, this is going to be a very dangerous attack for our forces, without a doubt, having to cross that river. But we've got to do it. We are still actually on the Dutch coast over here. You can see we're right in the Netherlands. So taking this area would almost fully liberate the eastern part of the country. And there we go. Once again, 455. Dusseldorf is in sight. It really is. If we could take it, it would be a huge morale victory. So I'm just going to keep on pushing. Those HQs don't even really need to move much because the fighting is so concentrated over here that they're not going to be, advancing too much each day. But if we were able to get one of these units through and actually form or create a breakthrough, we'd be off to a very good start. In fact, I'd like to bring some reinforcements over to this northern sector. It does look fairly weak, but at the same time, so does our attack line in this area. They've got some very strong fortifications there, and it's mostly because of all of that low-lying land in the Netherlands. Over here south of Amsterdam, you can see just a bunch of bogs, swampland, etc. Very difficult terrain to fight through. So let's take a look here. I'm even sending my HQ for this one. They actually managed to stop us, and that was a nasty loss on our side. 652, bit of a reckless attack. Let's try and avoid those going forward. So because we have the manpower here, I'm going for it. I'm actually sending in a few tank divisions, a few infantry divisions, and I'm thinking I want to go for that 33, or rather this 18. However, not everybody is ready for an attack this turn, so I think I'll hold off and look for other weak points in the line. That's one right there that could potentially be weak, and this one also, the 216, could be very weak, although likely what's going to happen is the units here in the 272nd Volksgrenadier Division are going to send reinforcements to assist. So that's why I'm thinking this might be the hot ticket right here. Again, a very dangerous attack, but let's go for it. They are going to have to send bombers to defend for sure, and look at that grueling numbers on our side. Very, very nasty. 1,804 casualties versus the enemy's 500, but they are weaker there, that's for sure. And maybe what we can do, it seems a little bit vicious, but we're actually going to send some of our men out, and I'm going to try to send reinforcements in to take up that position and go for another attack. Again, I'm not sure if using tanks is such a good idea here, so I'm going to send the 78th Infantry Division in there and cycle these tanks out, and now let's go for another attack. And they sent a bunch of bombers, but look at that, guys. We pushed through, and I'm pausing at those casualty counts to show you the bomber support, the air support coming in for both sides. Not too shabby. Again, pretty even casualties, but the important thing is we broke through here, and let's see if we can't take that position for good. Any reinforcements we could send in here would be tremendous. Maybe these guys? Not quite yet. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send the armor in. I'm going to send that infantry division in, and look at this with the armor. We're going to continue the attack, possibly even driving those guys away. We didn't move them, but of course, wiping out 325 of the enemy isn't bad. They don't really have much in the way of anti-tank capacities there in the 85th Infantry Division. Should we go for a second attack? I kind of want to, but only if I had some tank support. There we go. Another major retreat. Now, the thing is, getting behind them is the tricky part. The incredible part is we are right next to one of their HQ divisions. That can't make them feel safe in the slightest. However, we don't want to make too many crazy movements yet. One thing that's really got me worried, as you can see, we've got several U.S. cavalry groups trapped behind the enemy lines. We all know what happened to them during the Battle of the Bulge. The question is, can we save them in time? And I'm not so sure the answer to that is yes. There you go, the Volks Artillery Brigade actually coming to the defense over here to try and stop our push. And that central point in the line is weak. It's not quite strong. They've done a lot of fighting near the town of Sedan. Because of that, these guys are weakened. And that's why we actually have some paratroopers coming in here to assist. So I'm immediately going to what I consider to be the enemy's weak points and see if we can't exploit them. And this one right here looks to be one of them, potentially. But again, I want to bring in as many reinforcements as possible for this attack. We can't forget, guys, that we still got reinforcements in good old England that we could bring over. We do have some English divisions here already, but we can actually bring some guys across the pond. And as you can see, that seems to be a pretty sturdy line at the moment. The Germans are not giving it up easily. We also still have to take a look at our Italian front. But when I'm talking about moving units over, so as an example, we just want to make sure we get the right ports here. There we go, fantastic. And I'm actually going to drop them off at the port of Calais. And there will be probably German subs in the area, although since it is 1945, really it's the beginning of the end for them, and they are not as numerous. Not to mention, it is icy out here on the English Channel, the Strait of Dover. So there we go. Let us get them off the ships, hopefully. I'm just going to boom, and wonderful. And what we're going to do is send these guys right here to further trap the Germans over here at Dunkirk. What a change of plans, huh? To flip it around, to flip the script like that. And we are dealing with 226 Infantry Division and the Dunkirk garrison. Now, they're not getting any sort of reinforcements, so I'm almost tempted to attack, but I think all I'm going to do is just a probing attack. And even with just that probing attack, you could see how their defenses were affected. But this is not something to just leap into. We really want them to slowly but surely bleed on supplies. All right, here we go. Gonna do the same thing over here. We'll just drop them off at Bruges, the city of Bruges. I hope I'm pronouncing that. I'm not trying to be a pain in the a stick in the mud. I'm just trying to pronounce it properly. Okay, there we go. So transport 5 of 6 is hit, guys. 838 men lost to the ICCs. There are still subs out there, like I was telling you before, but hopefully the arrival of our HQ here will give us a little bit of added attack potential in the future. Now, this ship is carrying almost exclusively command staff, so I do want to be careful. And again, over here is a potential for attack, guys, the 533. Unfortunately, it would only be this group attacking for now. Let me see. Hold on. Maybe I did that wrong. Sorry. And no, it would only be this group. The problem is some of these guys are across the river. However, the 1017, yeah, I don't think we're going to attack with that group. It's just simply not strong enough. And I'd love to go for it, especially since our guys are trapped here. Thinking the best thing we can do for them is try and attack this unit right here. I hope we're getting that close air support. I guess we'll focus on it next time. They are weakened, and all I want to do is get them out. Look at those losses on each side. We're going to go for another attack. Come on, baby. Break them out. We're so close, but they are just barely holding on there, those defensive forces. And when you consider, all things considered, it's over 5,000 Germans there. I know it looks very weak, but there are a number of men there. So, unfortunately, right now, these cavalry units are trapped. It's going to be a hell of an issue to get them out. Looking for more of those weak points, folks. We've got plenty of tanks, and down here in the south, look at how weak these forces are. The first thing we have to do, though, is gain control of this side of the river, and that entails first pushing them back across the river entirely. There's a lot of armor here, and, it seems like that's a great thing, but really, it's just a bit tricky. We're also dealing with the Free French forces. I love the way they fight, but unfortunately, they're just not as effective, typically, as the Americans or the British. Now, that would be the city of Strasbourg right there. A huge gain for us if we take it. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're quite prepared to get over there. Let's see if one tank division can get in. Fantastic. Now, upon reflection, what I should have done is sent it over here, because the enemy seems quite weak in this sector. In fact, I'm going to get this tank out of formation just to go for an attack here. And, of course, like I said, more artillery brigades committing to that defense. But look at that, guys. 811 lost. Several tanks, although we lost 17 making the crossing. And there were so many different units that were part of that attack, including, as you can see, a bunch of additional Air Force support from Vandenberg. So I do appreciate that, and I think it allowed us to get across. Question is, can we hold this position? And the answer better be yes. think it's only natural now that we've done that to also put pressure on the Germans here. Again, we are crossing the river in certain instances in this battle, but we're going to keep on pushing. At least we didn't take serious casualties. We certainly bled the Germans, but they seem to have held on to that point, and no doubt they're going to reinforce. Let's really try to maximize damage with any of our units over here, especially these guys. One thing that I'm really concerned about is the SS divisions at Malmedy. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there just how many, King Tigers they have, Panthers they have. It is a terrifying thing for us to face. Just that simple. We're going to have to find a way around it. And one of the ways around it might just be to just straight up ignore it, to be honest with you. Again, fighting in that boggy region is not easy fighting in the slightest. Nonetheless, we need to try to get a breakthrough. See, that's what I'm talking about. And despite losing some men, who killed about 400, or killed or wounded about 441 Germans, but we can't seem to consolidate that position because we have to hold this area as well. Well, let's see, this would be attacking across the river. Don't think I want to do that, but I'd love to send my tank through. Hopefully this infantry division can hold, and this tank can be useful next turn. In fact, I'm going to send him over here to strengthen this line. If I could get all these guys to attack, I could even maybe break through there. All right, not likely, not likely. Fair enough. Just want to make sure there's nothing else we can do. Like, for instance, over here. Yeah, no. There's definitely going to be some attacks we can do here, and we cannot forget that we've still got the Southern Front to deal with. So typically, these campaigns take a very long time because of all those considerations. There we go, guys. Our Free French... Actually, no, sorry. This is a U.S. unit, U.S. Infantry Division. The Free French are down here to the south. Once again, a situation where I'd love to rush through with these tanks, but that would leave a wide open gap. You know what? We're going for it. And here's why. We can send one of these infantry units to further defend the area there. But the important thing is being able to follow up with attacks there, and that did not happen. We could lead in with some attacks here from Strasbourg. In fact, we could even send in some Free French tanks to assist. These guys are just outside the city, so fingers crossed. Man, they are so close to a retreat. We lost about 8 tanks on that attack, but they are just itching to retreat here. I feel like if we just had one more infantry division and launched an attack, they would fall back immediately. But they have held on, and if we look at what they've got there, really it isn't much. A couple flak guns, some artillery guns. They've got one Stug 3. Besides that, they are lost. And once again, we want to push them out of this area, and that means maximizing our strikes here. So let's do that. Going to widen the line here with these units, but I'm bringing in a bunch of Free French for this attack. And one thing that I've always read about the Free French at the end of World War II is they were absolutely vicious to the Germans once they captured them. Unfortunately, the Germans held very well here against those Free French divisions, and that is going to sting for sure. It's looking a little bit better. Of course, they're still holding on, but the real important thing here is to just slowly but surely drain the enemy. Make sure that they have nothing left. Doing the same over here, really hurting that unit, and we actually ended up hurting the enemy quite a bit more than they did us. I'm almost tempted to go for a second attack. This will just be a probing attack, but it'll keep them on their heels. As you can see, a lot of these units here for the Free French divisions are colonial units. These are African troops, Algerians, and some of the bravest forces around. I definitely want to make sure that all of our HQs are in range. Again, like I said, with such a small front, I doubt that they ever wouldn't be. All right, we've got some work to do over here in the Alps, my friend. And I think first things first is we want to start bringing these units close together over here and start striking these Italian hill forts. I don't think they're going to be very easy to break through, but let's try. And there we go. Sure enough, the Alpine infantry surrendered almost immediately. They don't want any part of this fight. So if we can just kind of waltz through, we can really open up these mountain locations, and of course allow the rest of our men, the mountain Free French Corps, against, again, I believe mostly Algerians, kind of break through into Italy. So there we go. Beautiful. Bunch of men surrendering into our hands, and this will only be the beginning. At least that's what I'd like to hope for. Over here, we got to be careful, though. There are definitely some units like the mountain divisions, German mountain divisions, that are still very strong. So my goal is just to strike them where they're weak, basically, and kind of go from there. All right, my friends. As you can see, Rome is under our control. We are now approaching Lombardy, northern Italy. And, you know, if we can break through here and actually make contact with our men behind the lines, we can absolutely get to Berlin before the Russians. The problem is the Alps, you know, being right there in our face. I don't think it's going to be easy terrain to get through at all. So we're going to have to look through, we're going to have to look for numerous weak points. And I'm already spotting some. The problem is, once again, just basic movement through the Alps. Like, look at this. Just that, and we've used up all of our movement points. So it like, maybe to move, you know, 50 kilometers takes, you know, 3 or 4 days. It's incredible just because of all of the terrain, the obstacles, etc. So I'm looking for the easiest place to break through. I'm not really seeing it, and maybe just readjusting our line is really the correct course of action right now. So I'm actually going to pull this infantry unit over here. I'm going to grab this tank unit, and let's send him right there. This infantry unit, let's send him right there. Risky attack, very risky. I don't even really feel confident about it. We got quite lucky there. Savoia, Genova retreated, and I think the only reason we made it through is because it's an Italian Marine battalion. These are not Germans. Some of them are, but we got lucky on that attack. Now, if I could follow it through and force him to retreat even more, that would be fantastic. This is no longer... This is no longer Italy. What you're looking at up here with Lombardy, Venice, and Piedmont is known as the Republic of Salo. That is to say, this is the last stronghold of Mussolini. The Italian state is no longer in support of Mussolini at all. In fact, they've gone back to the King Vittor Emanuele. So, you know, they're essentially on our side for all intents and purposes. So what I want to do is maximize our efforts here in the northeast of the country. I'm going to start moving these reinforcements forward. I mean, they're dedicating a lot of units here to this this northern Italian front, pardon me. And I want to make sure that they pay for it. I want to make sure that we actually give them some battles so that they know they need to hold on to this area, or we will break through, even at the loss, excuse me, of some men. So here's what we're going to do. Against an enemy mechanized division, that's right. They're even having a panzer division come to their defense there. But I think that, of all the battles we did, was the most brutal for our side. A total waste. Definitely don't want to try that again. Again, this is a very, very vicious front. I mean, there aren't many places to hide. So for now, we're simply going to maximize the position. In areas like this, where I can still hit mountain locations, I'll go for it. But that 28 is a bit too high a number for me to attempt it. However, if we could get these guys over there next turn, then we could talk about a potential attack. Same thing here. I'm going to get these guys over here again on that weaker front. Don't believe they're prepared to attack this turn. Oh my goodness, they are. Guys, we're going for it. Here we go. Now, we seriously crippled them there. We lost 23 tanks. They lost 15, but they can't stand to lose any tanks, and they just moved back. The question is, can we get any units in that gap? And unfortunately, I believe the answer is no, simply because of the Alps here being, you know, a major obstacle. And if we start moving through any mountains here in northern Italy, well, the Alps be up here, pardon me, but any of the mountains here in northern Italy are going to be really tough to get through. So I think I'm just going to kind of hold on for now. Looking for other potential avenues of attack. Man, I wish those guys were ready to attack again. All right, well, there's one thing we can do. We can get this general unit to Sedan, and this way we will be getting pretty regular supplies. The men will be getting their smokes, their food, their ammunition. I think that's going to be quite important. I also like bringing in the 1st U.S. Army Regiment here just to hold against that potential SS strike. I really feel like they're going to try to do a bulge attack here, or they're going to use that SS unit to take these guys prisoner, the cavalry division, and there's really very little we can do for those boys. Absolute heroes, but they are trapped. We've been doing pretty well over here north of Herdigan, so I think I'm going to send some additional commando brigades. These are mostly British commando brigades, and see if we can't bust on through. We'll also try to storm some positions across the river here, or ford some positions across the river. I know it's dangerous, but we need to weaken this area. We need to take Amsterdam and fully liberate the Netherlands. And then that way we can really refocus our forces eastwards, heading towards, ultimately, Berlin right over there. I mean, we're actually quite close when you really think about it. We're not that far off. Just checking all these HQs, making sure everybody's in place. For instance, here, we can get this guy a little bit closer. And look at that. Don't want to ignore this western position because we've got some additional Free French forces on the way. Looks like they were just raised in northern Paris, and why not? I want to make sure that those engineer battalions are working overtime. So there we go. You know, those engineer battalions will fix these rails so that we are getting more and more consistent supply. And again, we've still got some positions over here at Nazar and over here at Lorient. We're going to do what we're doing in the other area, just probing attacks to weaken them. I mean, they're not getting any more supplies, so at this point, it's really only a matter of time before they decide that they should surrender. So probing attacks for now, I think, are the correct approach until ultimately they surrender into our care. In this situation, though, that fort, I think we can almost take it this turn. You also notice those Free French divisions are under the overall command of Eisenhower, and that is, of course, because he is the main Allied commander. Now, all I'm hoping is that we get a sufficient amount. Now, again, look at that. Additional forces over here. This is why it's so important to check. And these U.S. infantry forces can actually support our attacks with our Free French units here. So I'm sending them in because I think this southern area, if you take a look at the numbers, the Germans are quite weak here. They do have some, strong points, like over here with the Volksgrenadier Division, and also over here with the 269th Infantry. But again, that's just 3 Stug tanks, or 7 Stugs. It's not anything incredible. If we could just get a few aggressive attacks on it, we very possibly could break through. Even over here, I'm tempted to go ahead and try just one more attack, man. Especially if we can get some infantry in there. Here's what we'll do. We'll simply strengthen that position. It's a risky one, but c'est la vie. And actually, it was a pretty brutal loss for both sides, as you could see there. 300 loss on our side, about 400, but you can see the enemy is much weaker, and maybe some probing attacks there will make a little bit of a difference. I'll tell you another thing. We also knocked out, we lost a heavy bomber on that strike, so for sure our men were dedicated to the push, but did just barely made it across. Over here, same story. We have made it across the river, but not with many men. So it could take some time and maybe even some better weather to really make this work. Going to take a quick look over here and try to bring over some additional forces. We've got some right there. British Infantry Brigade. Eventually, we will have to bring those guys over to... Oh, we're going to have to wait to get some more strategic points. We're going to bring those guys over to actually command the units currently on land. But we can wait just a little bit. Although I don't feel right leaving here without some additional attacks against these weaker positions. Maybe even over here. The problem is these are mostly armor units, and attacking across water against infantry units seems absolutely insane. So I'm not going for it, at least not just yet. Once again, did a pretty good attack here. 370 lost on the enemy. In terms of body counts, we did well there, only losing about 50 men. But like I said, I think next turn is going to be the tail of the tape. It's going to determine whether or not we can get across here fairly quickly, or whether this is going to be a protracted affair. What I will do is go ahead and end the turn. Might as well give it to the Germans and see what they decide to do. I don't think they have much left in terms of an air force. I believe the Luftwaffe is mostly been destroyed, but maybe I'm going to be unpleasantly surprised here, for lack of a better term. In fact, next focus, or my next air focus, I think I'm going to maybe not focus on enemy airfields. We'll see what happens. But there we go, a bunch of sorties, and really very few losses, as you can see, on either side. Like I said, I don't think the Luftwaffe has much left. Alright, some enemy attacks, and let's just stop there, guys. That is the cavalry division that was trapped, and unfortunately, well, fortunately but unfortunately, they did not surrender, but they retreated in total panic. 8,603 men killed or wounded. Over here, the Germans are trying to break through the north there in the Netherlands. We are holding strong. And even over here, let's take a look at that, guys. Over there, west of Trier, 870 Germans lost their lives, 2 tanks destroyed. We only have about 298 casualties. Hopefully most of those men can, you know, get their lives back. Again, another attack by the Germans here, which we stopped, knocking down a bunch of them. And this is that same area that we just stopped them, guys. West of Trier, we stopped them again. This time costing them 726 men. It's been a bloodbath for the Germans here in Trier. Now, the U.S. Armored Division did retreat here, a loss of 133 tanks. That's not... There's no way we can turn that into a victory. But there is some serious readjustment here on the German lines. Let's see what they're going for. And you know what? I said I wasn't going to focus on the rail yards and stuff. Considering the weather right now, the snow, I think we have to go for those rail yards. We need to try and knock out additional transportation, because if we knock out rail yards and roads and there's snow, there's just no way they're going to get any sort of supplies to those front lines. So I think that's going to be our priority number one now, is trying to knock out any of those points. Now, let's just look at the actual casualties for this turn, guys. As you can see here, 19,000, almost 19,000 men lost on the Axis side, and about 18,000, or we're talking only about killed, by the way, and about 18,000 lost on our side, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of losses here. Now, once again, I am going to execute essentially the same plan with one slight difference. I'm going to pull back our focus on aircraft, and I am going to put our focus on rail yards here, a high focus on rail yards. I want to make sure the Germans cannot transport anything through those rail yards. And let's see, heavy industry. Let's put a heavy focus on heavy industry. And we're going to boost our ground attack north up to high. So we're really going to just hit the enemy with everything we've got, try to shut down all of those rail stations, get some information about their current positions. Why not? Well, my friends, now, of course, we have to continue pushing east. Frankfurt is definitely in our way. Munich is in our way. A lot of things really within our grasp, and I'm wondering if we could just go ahead and grab them. I want to get one nice attack here, but what I'd really like you guys to do is if you enjoy this series and you want to see more of it, like, comment, and subscribe. I can't say that enough. A lot of work goes into, especially these War in the East series, or War in the West series, pardon me. So I want to make sure that if I am going to put some time into this, that you guys support it just with those likes and those comments. It really helps me out big time. Look at that. Even the SS divisions are pulling back here. And I am absolutely going to take those positions. We're going to be liberating Malmedy, Saint-Vite, lots of locations here that in time could actually turn quite dangerous for us. So I want to keep that in mind. Here we go, guys. Major attack. No, not there. Pardon me. I think they would. The last place they expect us to attack is against that SS unit right there. And I can see why. God, dang it. That's rough. I think we're going to have a little bit more luck over in this area. And there we go. A wonderful attack on the Volksgrenadiers. It would have been nice had we saved that tank to exploit that push, see? Again, though, with the weather, even getting this fresh tank through is going to cost quite a bit. Even if we got this tank, well, look at that. See, we still wouldn't make it that far. Nonetheless, could further entrap the enemy army here. It's going to be very important that we make it through here, too. So again, really trying to put the pressure on the enemy west of Köln. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here because if I keep on playing, I will not stop, and this will be a 1 hour long video. And as much as I'd like to help you out with that, I don't think I can at the moment. Fantastic push over there, managing to send the enemy scattering across the river. So I'm going to immediately fortify these existing positions and prepare for another renewed attack. In fact, that SS tank division looks like a great bit of bait, but look at all of those pieces of armor. Well, thank you so much, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.